Welcome everyone to Imaginative Vision's 31 Days of Halloween. Justin here, and today, my friends, we are going to be talking for the Page Turners edition here on the playlist. We will be talking about a book that I really want to recommend. It's more, to be honest with you, it's more of a thriller, but it does have a lot of horror elements. It has to deal with a serial killer. So I consider serial killers horror because they're killing people. People will be scared not to die. So today we are going to be talking about In the Miso Soup by Ryu Murakami or Murakami. And as always, I give you an overview synopsis from the back. So let's get into it, my friends. And it reads like this. It is just before New Year's. Frank, an overweight American tourist, has hired Kenji to take him on a guided tour of Tokyo's sleazy nightlife. But Frank's behavior is so strange that Kenji begins to entertain a horrible suspicion that his new client is in fact the serial killer currently terrorizing the city. It's not until later, however, that Kenji learns exactly how much he has to fear and how his encounter with this great white whale of an American will change his life. Now, this book is only 217 pages. So it's a really short book. So it's not something fans and readers out there, bookworms, that it's going to take you a long time to read. And just to go a little bit more into the story, and I'll talk about stories and characters right now. I feel that the story was really well paced and the pacing worked very well. It keeps this sense of dread because of the character of Frank. Frank is one of Murakami's most terrifying creations. He is both a character, he's a caricature of Americans' otherness and unknowable void, and he speaks in broken Japanese and affected friendliness. But behind the mask is that dark abyss. Critics often described him as simultaneously childlike and just monstrous at the same time. And one thing about Frank is that he switches from casual small talk to just this burst of horror, which keeps both Kenji and the reader off balance. Now, back to the story and talk a little bit about Kenji. Kenji's a 20-year-old nightlife guide. He escorts foreigners through hostess clubs, strip joints, and other underworld venues. Frank hires him because he's an American tourist and he wants to see that type of nightlife. But when we first meet Frank, he's awkward, he's overweight, he's a little too eager. But the news of these grisly murders of hostess girls combined with Frank's off-kilter behavior drives Kenji towards a more sense of dread that this guy that he's escorting to these hostess clubs could be the killer. And the story compresses timeline 3 chapters each. They compress the timeline, and the timeline's divided into 3 chapters, each devoted to a single night, which creates this kind of claustrophobic countdown like structure. Instead of sprawling subplots, Murakami keeps the focus narrow, letting tension build in real time. But the second night, the second night, folks, I'm trying not to spoil it. You know what? I won't spoil it. Let's just say the second night is why I put this in 31 Days of Halloween, because this is where the horror really starts to happen. This is where Frank and Kenji and just everything that's just been building on night one is really coming into head with night two with some really infamous scenes in modern day Japanese fiction. And then there's the final night that really destabilizes the reader, further just really reeling between that sense of dread, ambiguity, and this strange level of intimacy, which you have to read the book to really go, to really understand what I'm talking about with this. And the thing about Kenji and the character of Kenji is vulnerable. He's jaded, he's tired, he knows the nightlife intimately, but he's still young enough to be naive about the depths of human depravity. His voice is grounded in street level details, slang, prices, descriptions, and hostess routines, which really lends the novel its realism. Importantly, Kenji is not heroic. He is right. He's not heroic. He's not a hero, and his failures to act make him kind of a complacent in a ways that will disturb the reader. And then we also have characters like June, which is Kenji's girlfriend, and she is only lightly sketched by the functions as this emotional anchor in the book, and she represents Kenji's connection to normalcy. She is that anchor. She's that emotional weight for Kenji, and I thought her character really was the glue to his moral compass. But her relatively absence also highlights how Kenji is trapped within this neon world that he's living in. And then there's also other characters such as the hostess, managers, or people in the red light district. And I thought it did a very good job. It's a very tense book and it's a short read, but it goes really good with the pacing. And Murakami's writing style is is lean, it's observational, and it's deceptively calm. The narration, I will say, is the most richest part in this because it goes into sensory details such as cigarette smokes in a cramped bar, the hollow thump of techno music, and the artificial warmth of neon lightning. These everyday textures make just feel like more intrusive. Unlike, Western horror that might revel in suspense buildup or grotesque embellishments, Murakami employs, I would say, more flat or almost effectiveless deception in descriptions for the violent scenes. So you get the description, but it's not as, I would say, really as brutal. I mean, it is brutal, but it's kind of like the way he paints the violent scenes. It is kind of like a painting. But speaking of that, let's talk a little bit about the themes here and why we put this on Page Turner. So there's a lot, a couple of themes in here. I'm not going to touch on all of them, but of course, there's the ones with consumerism, loneliness, and alienation. Both Kenji and Frank are lonely people in different ways. Kenji loneliness is social. He's in the drift. He's working in this industry that strips intimacy from human contact. Frank's loneliness is existential. He has an inability to connect at all. I mean, he is a freaking killer, so he is lacking of certain things. And then you have that cultural collision of Frank being an American and someone from the West intruding on Japanese spaces. He's loud, he's strange, he's just basically belligerent and ignorant. And his foreignness is exaggerated to highlight Japan's relationship with globalization, tourism, and imported values. And then, of course, we have complexity and the gaze. And because the novel is filtered entirely through Kenji's eyes, readers will share his hesitation and his failure to act, which is pretty much decisive when it comes to certain scenes where Kenji is either just really shook or he's just going like, doesn't really like affect me. But why did we put this on Page Turners and especially for 31 Days of Halloween? It's graphic. It gets graphic. Murakami delivers a mid-novel set piece of violence so extreme, I can't even tell you because of monetization. I can't even describe it because of monetization purposes or the fact that it could be shadow banned because I just say a certain buzzword. Just know, I will just say this. Hostess scene. The hostess scene, if you read the book, you know what I'm talking about. There's also I will call it the Hostess Club Massacre. Yeah, that particular scene is where it's kind of it's kind of brutal, guys. It's bad. But to wrap this up, and Miso Soup is terrifying, not just because of what happens, but because of what it's revealed. How easy it is to look away, how violence festers into alienation, and how the combination of human connection can leave us hollow. It's a page turner for sure, because it combines the mechanics of a thriller and just this unnerving insight on social critique. So that to me said, my friends, this is Justin from Imaginative Visions. This has been 31 Days of Halloween. This is day 3, and we just talked about In the Miso Soup. If you read this book, comment below. Let me know what did you think about it, and Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Helps out the channel. I will be back tomorrow where I talk about one of my favorite anime horror films, Perfect Blue, all-time classic. We'll get into what happens if Hitchcock did an anime, because pretty much that has a Hitchcock type of style. So that's why I said that. But later days, folks. We'll be back tomorrow.